It seems like we always got to get these two teams in the playoffs every single year. Chiefs, Bills. Once again, people, who's going to come out on top? Is Josh Allen finally going to break through? Because you look at Kansas City this season, and it seems like they've been down bad all year long. But you can never count out Patrick Mahomes and Big Red on the sideline. Meanwhile, the Buffalo Bills, there was a point this season when we didn't even know if these fools were going to make it to the damn playoffs or not. And all of a sudden, they go from barely making it into the playoffs to winning the AFC East and now looking like one of the hottest teams in football. And now everybody realizes, hey, the Buffalo Bills still have a chance to win the Super Bowl. And what's even crazier is that the Bills have had a lot of injuries. I don't think that gets talked about enough. Like, they got so many dudes injured on defense. Like, one of their replacements, who was replacing a starter, he got injured. And he was having a fantastic season. Like, I think he was leading the team in tackles. Number 43, I forgot his name, but he was balling. I mean, you're down Tre'Davious White at cornerback, but for some reason, this defense still keeps performing at a high level, and that's because of Sean McDermott. And may I say that maybe he deserves consideration for Coach of the Year? He doesn't have to win it, but you can at least make him a finalist. I mean, there was a point this season when Buffalo looked down and out. They had that game against the Denver Broncos when they just felt like giving out Christmas gifts early. I mean, now for them to just make this 360 turnaround, they make the change at offensive coordinator. Joe Brady now has been doing a pretty good job calling the plays. Josh Allen had his first ever game that I've ever watched when he didn't turn the football over. This is a scary team right now. And Kansas City, yeah, they beat the hell out of the Miami Dolphins, but that was to be expected because the Dolphins just were not a great team. You know, they don't show up against good teams, but Patrick Mahomes balled out in that game. All right. And what really surprised me is how often Andy Reid was choosing to air it out with Mahomes. I was thinking that with the weather conditions, they were going to take a smash mouth football approach, but no. They were slinging that thing with some velocity on it, Mahomes was. And anytime the Chiefs and the Bills play, it always seems like a game that you know is going to come down to whichever one of these quarterbacks gets the ball last. And there's been so many times when it's looked like Josh Allen was finally going to get it done, and he just hasn't been able to come through. And I'm talking about the postseason, people. Like when they played the Chiefs a couple of times and they had to play Cincinnati. This looks like the year the Buffalo Bills can finally break through potentially. And no offense to Patrick Mahomes, but I kind of want the Bills to win this game because I want to see Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson in the AFC Championship. All right? Do you guys not know how big of a game that would be for both Lamar and Josh Allen potentially? Like, Mahomes has been there before. Josh Allen and Lamar, they haven't come close to winning a Super Bowl. One of those guys will have the opportunity to completely change the narrative about themselves and to completely alter their legacy right now, which is already seen in a pretty good light. But you look at Patrick Mahomes, though, this dude is like the Darth Vader of the NFL now. Like, anytime you think you finally got this dude down and out, they just find a way to pull something out of their you-know-what. And it's always tricky when you got to go against the Kansas City Chiefs because Patrick Mahomes is just so hard to stop. Like, I'm glad I'm not a defensive coordinator having to call against Patrick Mahomes, bro, because third and long, this dude is still getting the first down. He just makes the impossible seem possible. Consistently. I've never seen a quarterback that so effortlessly makes impossible shit look like it's elementary school ball. And the Buffalo Bills do have a pretty good pass rush, but you're really going to need Von Miller to get after him in this game. All right, you're giving Von Miller all this money, and who cares if he's washed up? You know, he should at least have a lot left in the tank for this game, for this moment, for this occasion. You see, when Buffalo played Kansas City back in the regular season when they went up against each other, Kansas City probably would have won that game if it wasn't for J.R. Toney being on sides. And when you look at the point spread for this game, Buffalo's only a 2.5 point favorite, possibly because they have the home field advantage. And that's another interesting dynamic about this game. Mahomes has always had the luxury of playing at home, but now he has to go on the road and he has to deal with the noise of the Bills Mafia. And home field advantage does matter in games like this. There's a reason why a lot of the higher seeds always are the teams to advance compared to the lower seeded teams. I'm looking at the home field advantage of Buffalo. That definitely has to factor into the point spread of this game. And I would agree that the Bills are a more complete team than Kansas City. Kansas City, their offensive line probably played one of their better games of the season. Normally, and even then, their offensive line still was giving up penalties. You know, you got two offensive tackles that really aren't that great. Jaron Taylor is massively overpaid. But it's like, that was their best performance against the depleted defensive line of the Miami Dolphins. But the way their offense was looking, though, against the Buffalo Bills secondary, I believe they can make some things shake. Travis Kelce, it looks like he has kind of started to crank up the juice a little bit. He was looking a little washed up to me during the regular season, but he had a really great game against the Miami Dolphins. He was making plays, and he's possibly going to be making a lot of them again in this game against the Buffalo Bills. Kansas City, they got a really good defense. We know how good Kansas City's defense is, and we know how good of a defense Buffalo has, but what really separates these two teams from me is that Buffalo, to me, is a more explosive team overall than what Kansas City is. Kansas City hasn't been able to generate the big plays at will that they used to be able to in previous iterations. This is more of a methodical offense. We're going to take our time, move the football down the field. And I love Isaiah Pacheco. I love watching this dude run. But James Cook, he just brings a different dynamic to Buffalo's offense that Isaiah Pacheco doesn't bring to Kansas City's. This dude is just a true all-around weapon. He's good catching the football out of the backfield. He's a touchdown waiting to happen. Really good vision, great speed, incredible acceleration. He's like an Alvin Kamara 2.0, but better in my opinion. And with having him, he takes some of that pressure off of Josh Allen. And what's even more scary is that imagine if you get a game out of Josh Allen where he again has no turnovers. Ooh. A Josh Allen with no turnovers? You mean to tell me that you don't like the chances of Buffalo winning anytime he doesn't have any turnovers? Now, Kansas City's defense, they're really good, and we know how good they are. We know they got a good pass rush. We know that Chris Jones is a monster. And their secondary, I don't know if y'all seen what L'Jarius Sneed did to Tyreek Hill, but that was brutal. That was one of the best presses or one of the best jams that I've ever seen in the NFL. Hell, I rarely see receivers get jammed in the National Football League nowadays. So maybe he does the same thing to Stephon Diggs. But Kansas City, I think that this is going to be the year they finally fall to Buffalo in the playoffs. The reason why I'm confident about Buffalo winning this game is because for the first time in a while, it seems like they do outgun the Chiefs. It's not an even playing field. And I'm not counting out Mahomes. Like, I get that you can never count out Mahomes. But eventually, it's going to come a time when he needs a good enough supporting cast as what Josh Allen has. And he doesn't have that this season. You see, Mahomes has always had the luxury of having a full arsenal offensively. The Bills' defense is not Miami's. And Miami's defense didn't do that bad. It's just their offense ain't do them no favors. But Sean McDermott has done an incredible job ever since he taken over the play calling once he got rid of Leslie Frazier at the end of last year. And with how well this defense has played, and we've seen Kansas City's offense struggle to get to 20 for most of their games, Buffalo, I expect them to be able to sneak this game out. I'm not expecting it to be close because you know Mahomes in the playoffs is never going to go down without a fight. Kansas City does have a really good defense, but they just lack the necessary playmakers that you need to win in the postseason. You see, the NFL used to be so different. I remember a decade ago, back when I was in elementary school, the Baltimore Ravens played the 49ers in the Super Bowl. And they didn't really have any star-studded wide receivers. Like, I think they had old man Anquan Bolden. They had like Torrey Smith or something like that. But in today's age of the NFL and the year 2024, you got to have weapons on offense to go far. You may not need to have a great offensive line, but you at least need to have playmakers on the outside. And that's something that Patrick Mahomes, for the first time in his career, unfortunately doesn't happen to have And Travis Kelce is going to make plays, but he still isn't the player that he used to be. And just him isn't going to be enough. Like, you got Rashee Rice who's stepping up and emerging, but you need more. Like, Josh Allen has James Cook. I mean, you got Dalton Kincaid, you got Stephon Diggs, you got Davis. Meanwhile, Kansas City, their offense only revolves around about 3 players: Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice, and Isaiah Pacheco. And they don't have a reliable offensive line. You know, they got a great defense, but I'm just really confident in Buffalo's ability to get over the top this year. They're playing them at home. Kansas City, you beat them once, and you maybe would have lost that game if the ball would have bounced in a different direction. But, you know, I believe this is Buffalo's year that they get to the AFC Championship. And I really do believe that if there was a year for Josh Allen to break through and finally take down Mahomes in the postseason, this would be it. It really would, because Kansas City, I just don't see how their offense is going to be able to be sustainable with how good Buffalo's defense has played this year. Like, it is really hard to move the ball on Buffalo's defense. So I'm going to take the Bills to win. 20-14 is going to be my final score prediction for this game.